Hey guys, I'm going to show you how to build a custom color palette in Photoshop. It's really easy to do if you're even a little bit familiar with Photoshop. You can also do this in Illustrator, and I actually think that it's a little bit easier to do it in Illustrator, but I decided to show how to do it in Photoshop just because I know more people that use Photoshop. Um, so first, and this is just completely my personal preference, I like to create some kind of header for my color palette. Just for this, I'm just going to call it color palette, but you could make it like branding colors or room colors or whatever you're designing a color palette for. So to do that, I'm going to select my text tool and I'm going to use a script called Virtual. It's already selected up there for me, and I'm going to type that, and there's my header. So I'm going to center that with the page. And now I need to build my shape for the color palette. And you could do this with circles or rectangles or whatever you wanted to use. I'm going to use rectangles. Right now my circle tool is selected, so I need to change that to my rectangle tool. So I'm going to hit Control on my keyboard and click on it and select the rectangle tool. And to get a perfect square, which is what I want, I'm going to hold down my Shift key and then click and drag the square. And I'm going to make it about, that's close enough, 1.24. And it automatically filled with the last background color that I used. So just for right now, I'm going to just change this to white really quick, and I'll show you how to fill them in later. But I do want to say, when you create the square and this properties tab pulls up, make sure that you have some kind of stroke, which is the second window right here. And right now my stroke size is 2 pixels. I'm going to make it about 4 pixels to make it just a little bit thicker. And then I'm going to move this square down just a little bit. And I want to do 5 squares to a row. So there is my first square. And now to copy that layer, so the next square is the exact same size, I'm going to go over here to my layers panel, and I'm just going to drag rectangle 1 down here to this image that it kind of looks like a sheet of paper that's bent in the corner, and then release it, and that'll create a copy. I'm going to go ahead and rename this rectangle 2 so I don't get confused. And then I'm going to make sure my selection tool is selected and drag the second rectangle over just a little bit. And now I'm just going to keep doing that, keep copying and renaming until I have all of the rectangles that I need for a row. And I want to make sure they're evenly spaced. If yours doesn't show the evenly spaced thing like it just showed on mine, you can go to View and go to Snap and it'll show it. So anyway, let's just keep copying rectangle 4 and move, and rectangle 5. And move. And now I want to group these so I can move them all together all at once. So to do that, I'm going to hit Command G, and that'll start my group with the 5th rectangle. And now I need to just drag all those other layers to the group. And make sure that the group is selected. You can still select layers within a group. I'm sure you know that if you know how to use Photoshop. So just make sure the group is selected, and now I want to center that with the page, which that was already pretty much centered. So now I've got all my squares. So now I want to fill these squares, and how I do that is I select the square or rectangle, it calls it a rectangle in the layer, but they're squares, that I want to fill, and I just double click on that layer, and the color picker will automatically pop up. And let's say I want to do the first square a shade of red, so I'm just going to pick a shade of red. And if you want to see how to pick colors from images, I'm going to link you to a different tutorial on how to do that in the description of this video. So for this, I'm just going to use my color picker though. So anyway, I've got a red selected, and that's a really pretty shade of red. And there's the hex code for it. It's F80505. So before I close this, I'm going to hit Command C, and I'm going to hit OK. And now I want to make sure that I know what that hex code is, because I'm going to print this to use. So I'm going to select my text tool, and I'm going to change the font and the font size, and let's just use Arial, Arial regular, and I'm going to change the font size to about 30, and I'm just going to type a number sign so I know it's hex, and then hit Command V to copy the code. And I'm going to drag this. I think I'm going to make the text a little bit smaller. Let's shrink the text down to about 20. And yeah, that's a good size. And now I want to center it with this box. And since I have my snap tool selected, it'll kind of show me the guides on how to do that. And that automatically put itself in the group too. So now you can move this whole group if you have it selected, and it'll move the number with it. Okay, so anyway, let's fill in the second rectangle. I'm going to double click, and let's make it orange. So I kind of selected orange down here, and now I'm going to select it from the bigger square, and that'll work. That's FD7A05 is the hex code. So I'm going to, again, hit Command C, select OK, select my text tool, and it'll automatically pull up the last font and font size that you use, so you don't have to adjust that again. And now just type in number sign, and then Command V to copy that code. And now I'm going to click on my selection tool, and I'm going to try to align this with the center of the square and with the font, or the hex code for my first square. So you can see that pink line there, it's centered with the square, and it's sitting on the same line with the first hex code that I used. And that just keeps it looking, symmetrical and uniform and everything. And anyway, you would just keep doing that over and over again until you filled all of the boxes. You could do this with 3 colors. You could do this with 20 colors. I usually like to start with a letter size document and then crop it down to whatever size I need the color palette to be. And I'll show you what I mean by that. And I just prefer to do it that way because I'd rather the document be too big and have to crop it down than find halfway through making my color palette that I need to increase my canvas size, because I just think that's a little bit more difficult. So anyway, to crop the image, if I just wanted one line of colors, I would go over here to my crop tool, and I'm kind of zoomed in a little bit, so let me zoom out. And it, outline the whole document with this box, and I'm just going to move that up just a little bit, and then select this check mark up here, and now I've cropped it, and yeah, and now it's the size that I need and everything. So anyway, feel free to contact me on my website if you have any questions. I will provide a link on how to contact me in the video description. Thanks so much.